I think we had pretty much finished most of the functionality for the buttons. Obviously all the buttons or the number buttons work, and then the decimal, which again we only wanted the decimal to work once. And then if we try addition, 2 plus 3 equals 5, 5 minus 1 equals 4, 2 times 2 equals 4, so that works. The inverse works. Oh, the other thing was the division. So right now, since we have those dynamic buttons with these captions, and then we use the caption to return the result using the eval function. So again, this would just be one concatenated string with the previous value, the operator, and then the current value, and then the eval function will treat it as actual Python code and return the result. But remember, we are just using the captions, so for division we're only using one single forward slash, but there's multiple types of division in Python. So the one forward slash is like if you wanted to get the four results. So like for example, if your result had a floating point number, then you would get the floating point number. But then if you just want the integer part of it, so if your result was like 4.5, but you just wanted the 4, then you would do the double forward slash. And then to get just the remainder of that, so just the 0.5, then you would use the percent sign. And so for example, if we do 4 divided by 2, right now we're getting 2.0 because it's the full division. But in that case, we would just, since it's a whole number divided by a whole number and the result is a whole number, then we would just want the 2. And then similarly for because if it was 9 divided by 3, same thing, 3.0. But if it was something like 10.4 divided by 2 equals 5.2. So in this case, we would want to see the full result, the 5.2. Well, when it's something like the 8 divided by 2 equals the 4. But we just want to see the 4. So in the last video, I had started to change it here in the when the operator is, when you click the operator, I was going to check if it was division, and then based on the value and the previous value, determine whether it needed to be the full division or the integer division. So that in the case of, let's say, 4 divided by 2, we would switch it to the double forward slash to integer division, so that it would only return 2.2 instead of 2.0. But I think it would be better to do it in the equals, because it's also relevant for the multiplication. So if we had, for example, 2 times 5, then that gives us 10. But if we had something like 4.5 times 2, the result is 9. But I think it would be better if we just had to return 9, since there's no floating point. So here in the equals, again, this will return the result, and then we convert it to a string. But then we can check if point zero is in the value, then we can convert it. Or first we'll start out with just the value, and then so this will be the actual result. It will either be a integer or a floating point number. So then we need to check if it's just a point zero. So we check if point zero is in value. But since this is a floating point or a integer, we need to convert this to a string. So if point zero is in the string version of value, and since we're doing it here, since we're saying if string in str value, this doesn't change the variable value. It creates a copy version of it as a string. So then we can convert the original value to an integer. So this one is just a copy of it. Otherwise, if we were to say, like, we can say value equals str value, and this will change the value that's bound to the variable value. But then that would create a problem over here because the integer when we pass the value to integer, you can get an error. So we leave it as either integer or floating point here, but then we check if point zero is in the string version of it, and if it is, then we convert that means it's a floating point, and we can pass that to the int class to convert it to an integer. And then after we set our attribute value to the string version of value. So I think this will if we do something like 4.5 times 2, so now we just get the 9. And then similarly, if we do 10 divided by 2, then we just get 5 instead of 5.0. But then if we do something like 5.8 divided by 2, where in this case we would want to see. So there's another problem. So we did 5.8 divided by 2. No, yeah, that's right. I was thinking of something else. In this case, we would want to see the floating point. So something simpler like 2.4 divided by 2 should be 1.2. So that does it for these operators. And the clear and the minus. And I believe the percent was also working. So I think that pretty much does it for the functionality for the simple version of the calculator, just those simple operators and the inverse and the decimal and clear and equals. So now we'll move on to the other version, which is the scientific version, and it has all the other buttons, and we'll continue that on the next video.